Hi everyone, welcome to Monday's art lesson. Your learning objective today to explore the potential properties of the visual elements, line, tone and texture. You're going to be learning some new art techniques. Some of them you're actually revisiting from a few lessons we did before the October half term. You're going to be experimenting with these techniques and using them to create a drawing. Your inspiration is going to be an illustration by Chris Riddell. So he is the person who did the illustrations in Odd and the Frost Giants. So you may want to pause the video in a second and see if you understand what these questions are asking. So it says, are there any words in the questions you are unsure of? Why is thoughtful mark making important in art? What is texture and tone in art? Why do we need to create tonal contrast in art? So if you're not sure what some of those questions mean, pause the video now and then join me again in a second when you've had a chance to discuss it with someone in the room with you. Okay, so here are some examples of mark making. You've got an example here where mark making has been used to show emotion and expression. Another one showing pattern and flow, dynamic action, and movement. So pause the video here if you would like to, just to take your time and have a look how mark making has been used on these images. Right, so we're going to look at texture and tone now. Now, texture is the way you use marks to give your work a visual texture. So it could be realistic. So for example, you could make your drawing look like it's bumpy or rough if you were to touch it. Texture is added to give your work depth and interest. It can also give your work mood and atmosphere. So that's texture. Now, tone is the lightness or darkness in your work. You use tone to give the impression of space and 3 dimensions. And again, I know you were doing some work on this a couple of weeks ago. Tone can also be used to create atmosphere and mood. So again, pause the video here and just have a look how tone has been used in these examples. Thoughtful mark making is important in art because it is a way of adding texture to your work and adding mood and atmosphere. It makes artwork more engaging for the view. Now, contrast is where you have opposite elements, so light and dark, for example, smooth and rough. Having contrast in your work makes it much more interesting and balanced. So when you do your piece today, take those things into consideration. Here are some examples of tone. Again, this is the lesson that we had before the October half term, so you should be familiar with this. Now it says have a go at creating a line of tonal grades. Now, again, you can do this with any colour, any pencil that you would like to use. So go from light tone to dark tone. And then a note at the bottom says also try to get dark tones by reworking over an area, so you can go back over it. So you can pause the video here and just have a look at these examples. And again, some examples of mark making to give texture. So you've got squiggles, the crosshatch, tiny circles, dots, dashes in one direction, thicker dots. And it says here, so what I'm going to ask you to do is pause the video, have a go at creating different marks to achieve these different textures. So use a space in your sketchbook or just get a piece of paper and just have a go and see what different textures you can create, what different images you can create using this mark making. So pause the video now and have a go at that. Right, so I was talking to you about Chris Riddell earlier. So he's a British illustrator, a writer and a cartoonist. So he illustrated this edition of Odd and the Frost Giants. His illustrations involve lots of mark making, tone and contrast. And you can have a look at some of those examples in the book. We've got them ready for you, so you can have a look at some of those examples. This is one way that he captures the characters' personalities. Now you're going to recreate a small section of one of his illustrations. So in a second you will have a look, choose one that you think is appealing, and then just focus in very closely on one section. So I'll show you some examples here. So can you see? We've got this image here, and then these images have just focused in really closely. Look, you've got the sort of the nose here of the frost giant, and then this one, his ear, and the outline of his clothing there. So you need to decide on a small section of one of his images, and that's what you're going to focus on. Now it says here you don't have to make your image very big. So even something like 5 centimeters by 10 centimeters is absolutely fine. So you can draw your rectangle and then just start to play around with the mark making. And again, it's really important that you don't copy it exactly. It doesn't have to be exactly the same. You can do whatever you want with this. Again, important note to say different marks are used to achieve textures, tones, to get contrast of light and dark, to give depth. So you want your picture to come alive. You don't want it to look flat on the page. Now, again, really important, there's no right or wrong with this. So just enjoy it. Try and have fun with it. Again, Riddell uses lots of straight lines. You might want to change the mark that you use to achieve the dark areas. So although he's used straight lines, you might want to use something else. And then there's another example here for you. So it says, select an image that you really like and play around. So again, you've got this image here from the book. And then this one here, which is just sort of zoomed in on a section. And you can see how you've got all these different mark making just to create the picture. So overall, it's really impressive and quite striking. And then one more example for you here. Have a look. So you've got the main image here. Again, a closer section here, and then another closer section here. So you can see how all the different mark making skills have been pulled together to create tone and texture. So that's it from me. Obviously, refer back to any examples in this PowerPoint to help you. Look at the images in front of you and have fun with it. And don't forget to show us some of your work. Okay, enjoy this activity and I look forward to seeing what you have produced. Take care, bye.